The summer sun hung heavy over the sprawling Mississippi plantation, 1859, baking the red clay earth beneath the workers' bare feet. The air was thick with the mingled scents of magnolia blooms, cotton pollen, and the acrid smoke from the kitchen hearth. The mansion loomed over the estate like a silent, watchful monarch, whitewashed walls gleaming in the sunlight, tall pillars framing its stately entrance, and windows reflecting the sky, as if to hide the secrets within. Beneath this grandeur, the lives of dozens, slaves, laborers, and the family themselves, moved like shadows in an intricate, dangerous dance. Mary, the cook, moved silently through the kitchen, her hands deftly kneading dough and chopping vegetables, while her ears absorbed every conversation that floated through the halls. To anyone watching, she was merely a servant, dutifully attending to her chores. But Mary's true skill lay not in cooking, but in observation. For years, she had listened, memorized, and cataloged every whisper, every hushed confession, and every secret plan that passed through the walls of the plantation. The mistress fretting over a hidden suitor, the overseer plotting with merchants to maximize profits, the visiting politicians revealing secrets of power. They all spoke freely around her, unaware that their words were being silently recorded in her mind. Her position afforded her a unique vantage point. She could be invisible and omnipresent at once, moving between the bustling kitchen, the dining hall, and the quieter corridors where private conversations unfolded. Mary understood human nature better than anyone on the estate. She could read hesitation, deceit, and hidden fear with ease. Children confided in her while husking corn or peeling vegetables. The family trusted her with small domestic secrets, thinking them trivial, while she tucked each detail away like a thread in a vast tapestry. That night, the plantation settled into its habitual rhythm. Outside, crickets chirped and the faint rustle of leaves whispered in the warm breeze. Inside, servants cleaned and prepared for the next day, the clatter of utensils and low murmur conversation filling the kitchen. Mary, however, was already preparing for what she had long anticipated. She lit a single candle, the flickering flame casting long, dancing shadows across the walls, and opened her hidden notebook. It was worn, the leather cover cracked, pages yellowed and fragile from years of hiding in the shadows. Her pen scratched across the paper, capturing the events of the day, the argument she overheard between the mistress and her mother, the whispered confession of a young man in the fields, the subtle tension between the overseer and visiting dignitaries. Every detail mattered. A small word could alter the understanding of a person's intent. A glance could reveal more than a confession. Mary wrote with precision, each sentence carefully constructed to preserve the truth exactly as she observed it. Hours passed, and the kitchen became a world apart from the rest of the mansion. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying the distant cries of night birds and the occasional clatter of shutters against the wooden walls. Inside, Mary worked tirelessly, recording secrets both innocuous and dangerous. She wrote of forbidden romances, schemes to cheat neighbors, arguments over inheritance, and the quiet suffering of those bound by invisible chains of duty and expectation. Each word was a thread, each sentence a stitch in a growing, intricate pattern that only she could see in its entirety. As the candle burned low, Mary paused to reflect. She realized the magnitude of what she was documenting. Secrets that could topple reputations, betray alliances, and reveal sins long hidden were now captured in her notebook. Her hand shook slightly, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of knowledge. The lives of dozens, the fate of families, and the hidden truths of an entire household rested in her grasp. The mansion outside remained oblivious to her quiet labor. The family slept, unaware that their most private moments, their whispered schemes and hidden sorrows, had been silently chronicled by someone they considered invisible. The servants moved through the night, attending to chores, yet none suspected that Mary's notebook held a record of their confessions, anxieties, and fears. By dawn, the candle had burned almost to the base, leaving a small pool of wax on the wooden table. Mary leaned back, exhausted but satisfied. Her notebook was filled with pages of secrets, a silent chronicle of the plantation's hidden life. She closed it carefully, tucking it beneath the loose floorboard where it had lain undiscovered for years. The world outside was waking, the morning sun streaming through the windows, casting light on a mansion alive with mundane activity. completely unaware of the silent storm Mary had written into existence. In that quiet moment, Mary understood something profound. She held power that no one else possessed. She had observed, recorded, and preserved truths that could, if revealed, alter the course of lives forever. The cook, who seemed a simple figure moving silently among pots and pans, had become the keeper of knowledge, the guardian of secrets that even the most powerful could not claim. The days that followed were like any other, yet Mary carried a new confidence. She continued her work in the kitchen, serving meals, washing dishes, and tending the fires, all while keeping her thoughts occupied with a tapestry of secrets she now held in ink. Each conversation, each glance, each whispered word became fodder for her growing collection. The mansion, with all its grandeur, did not know that one night a quiet cook had begun to record the unspoken truths of everyone within its walls, and that this act, simple as it seemed, would one day change history forever. The days on the plantation moved with the slow rhythm of sunlight across the cotton fields. Yet beneath the calm, a tension simmered that only Mary seemed fully aware of. She moved among the kitchens, corridors, and back stairways with practiced ease, her hands tending to meals while her ears caught every whisper, every hurried confession, every subtle shift in tone. Even the faintest tremor in a voice, a hesitation before a word, or a glance toward an unseen corner was significant to her. Each observation was a thread, and Mary wove them together into a tapestry of secrets that no one could imagine. The young mistress, Caroline, fretted endlessly over letters that arrived from distant suitors. She confided in Mary in quiet moments while adjusting the silverware or folding the linen napkins. Mary listened carefully, noting the precise phrasing of Caroline's anxieties, the subtle words she left unsaid, the fears she dared not admit to anyone else. The overseer, Mr. Whitman, conducted clandestine meetings with merchants, planning expansions of the cotton fields while skimming profits for himself. His whispers carried into the kitchen when the doors were slightly ajar, each syllable adding another layer of intrigue. Mary had long learned to distinguish truth from deception. She could tell when a confession was sincere and when it was a carefully constructed performance. The servants often underestimated her, speaking freely while thinking her mind was occupied elsewhere. Some of the wealthier family members, convinced of her subservience, let slip private observations and petty grievances, unaware that each word was being catalogued with precision. Every person on the plantation, no matter their rank, had vulnerabilities, secrets, and ambitions that Mary quietly collected, storing them in the recesses of her memory, while occasionally transferring them to her hidden notebook. It was during a sweltering summer evening, as cicadas droned and the magnolias filled the air with their sweet scent, that Mary felt the first tremor of what would become a pivotal moment. A distant cousin of the family had arrived unexpectedly, bringing letters and news from the town. He was a garrulous man, careless with words, revealing information about estates, debts, and alliances that no one else knew. Mary, standing near the pantry, pretended to arrange jars of spices, while mentally recording every syllable. Each revelation, each inadvertent confession, added fuel to the growing sense of urgency she felt. As night fell, a storm began to stir, heavy clouds blotting out the stars, lightning streaking across the horizon, and thunder rumbling like the distant roar of cannons. Inside the mansion, candles flickered as wind rattled the shutters. Guests were stranded, servants hurried about with tasks, and the family retreated to private rooms to escape the storm. Mary seized this opportunity. She lit a candle in the kitchen, its flame dancing across the walls, casting her small, solitary figure in stark relief against the shadowed room. She retrieved her worn notebook, the leather cover cracked with age, and began to write. Her pen moved feverishly across the pages, capturing every conversation and observation of the day. She recorded Caroline's anxious musings, the cousin's reckless confessions, and the overseer's whispered schemes. Every gesture, every glance, every unspoken word found its way into the notebook. Hours passed like minutes, and Mary became absorbed, almost as if the world outside had ceased to exist. The storm's fury outside mirrored the storm of revelations within her pages, each sentence building upon the last to form a comprehensive map of intrigue, betrayal, and hidden desires. By midnight, the mansion had grown eerily silent. The storm's wind howled, rattling the shutters, and the occasional clap of thunder punctuated the quiet tension of the night. Mary's hand ached from the continuous writing, yet she could not stop. She understood the power she now held. Each secret, once written down, became immortalized, a truth that could not be undone. If revealed, these words had upend lives, destroy reputations, and shatter carefully maintained illusions. She paused for a moment, leaning over the candlelight, observing her own work. Her notebook was a dense chronicle of years' worth of observations, now expanding exponentially with the events of the day. She thought of the delicate balance of her existence, trusted yet invisible, noticed yet underestimated. Her awareness of this balance gave her a sense of control she had never before experienced. She could shape the course of events, not with force or confrontation, but with knowledge. The storm outside intensified, lightning illuminating the room in stark, brilliant flashes. Mary wrote about the subtle dynamics between the family members, the quiet tension between siblings, the greed and ambition hidden behind polite smiles, the vulnerabilities and fears of the overseer, and the quiet resilience of servants who confided in her. She chronicled moments that seemed inconsequential at the time, but revealed profound truths when placed together in context. Each entry was deliberate, precise, and imbued with an understanding of human nature that only years of observation could cultivate. As dawn approached, the storm subsided, leaving behind a world glistening with rain-soaked leaves and puddles reflecting the early sunlight. Mary, exhausted yet exhilarated, closed a notebook and placed it carefully in its hiding spot beneath the floorboard. She paused, feeling a thrill of anticipation. The secret she had captured, now safely recorded, possessed a power she had never wielded before. One night of writing had transformed her role from silent observer to a keeper of truths that could challenge the very foundation of the household. In the following days, Mary continued her routine, moving invisibly through the mansion, while her mind replayed each revelation, analyzing, connecting, and anticipating. She observed the subtle reactions of the family and guests, noting inconsistencies in stories, fleeting glances of fear, and whisper hints of suspicion. Each day brought new information, new confessions, and new insights into the complex web of relationships and motives that defined life on the plantation. By the end of the week, Mary realized that her notebook had become more than a record of secrets. It had become a map of human ambition, deception, and desire. Each page held a truth that, if revealed, could alter the course of events, challenge authority, and shift power dynamics. She understood that she was no longer merely a cook. She was a silent architect of the fate of those around her, a figure whose knowledge could influence decisions, shape outcomes, and expose hidden truths. Mary's confidence grew, tempered with caution. She understood the importance of timing and subtlety. One wrong move could destroy her and the fragile balance of the household. Yet, she also recognized the inevitability of revelation. Secrets, once held, demanded exposure, and she had the power to decide when and how that exposure would occur. With patience, observation, and careful planning, Mary positioned herself as the unseen hand that could guide, challenge, and ultimately change the destiny of everyone she served. By the end of the second week, the mansion's occupants remained unaware of the storm of revelations quietly documented in the kitchen. Mary's notebook, filled with meticulous detail, lay hidden beneath the floorboards, its pages alive with the accumulated knowledge of years. Outside, the plantation thrummed with life, workers tending to the cotton fields, guests attending social obligations, and the family navigating the intricate rules of wealth and status. Yet beneath it all, a quiet power had emerged, concentrated in the hands of someone who had been dismissed as invisible, inconsequential, and powerless. Mary's thoughts lingered on the realization that one night, when the conditions were right, her words could surface and change everything. She had waited, observed, and recorded with care, understanding the importance of timing and precision. The mansion, the family, and the surrounding town would soon confront truths that could not be ignored, secrets that would unravel carefully constructed facades, and revelations that would forever alter the balance of power. One night, she mused her knowledge, courage, and foresight would make history, and she would watch as the world changed because of the truths she had chronicled in silence. The moon hung low and silver over the Mississippi plantation, casting long shadows across the sprawling estate. The air was thick with humidity, carrying the faint scent of rain-soaked earth and the lingering fragrance of magnolias. Inside the mansion, The household was settling into the late hours of the night. The corridor was empty except for the faint echo of footsteps and the distant hum of insects outside. Mary, the cook, moved with deliberate quiet, carrying the weight of countless secrets within her chest. Tonight was a night she had been preparing for. For years, Mary had observed, listened, and recorded, her worn leather notebook brimming with the lives, fears, and ambitions of everyone who lived on or visited the plantation. The walls had spoken to her, the whispered confessions of the wealthy, the hurried revelations of strangers, the quiet agonies of the servants, all preserved in meticulous detail. But now, the moment of decision had come. She would no longer be a silent observer. Tonight, her words would shift the course of history, exposing truths long buried under layers of social convention, fear, and pride. The mansion was unusually quiet. Caroline, the young mistress, had retired early, exhausted from a day of anxious deliberation over letters and social obligations. The master of the house, Mr. Hawthorne, sat in his study, papers scattered across the desk, oblivious to the storm of revelation about to unfold. Mary, holding a single candle, ascended the narrow staircase, her shadow flickering across the walls. She entered the study without knocking, her movements smooth, practiced, and unseen until she was already there. Mr. Hawthorne looked up, startled by the presence of the cook at such an hour. "Mary," he asked, his voice cautious, "what brings you here now?" She remained calm, her gaze steady. "I have something you must see," she said softly, placing the notebook on his desk. The candlelight illuminated the worn leather cover and the dense pages within. Curiosity flickered across Mr. Hawthorne's face as he reached out, brushing his fingers over the cover. "What is this?" he asked, a note of suspicion creeping into his tone. "It is everything," Mary replied. "Everything that happens here. Every secret, every hidden truth, every word spoken in confidence. I have written it all. Tonight, you'll understand." Mr. Hawthorne opened the notebook, skimming the carefully written pages. His eyes widened as he read the chronicled confessions, the hidden schemes, the quiet sufferings, and the ambitions of every person connected to plantation. The realization of how much Mary had observed, how much she knew, left him speechless. He felt the power of the written words pressing down on him, a force he could neither ignore nor control. Mary's voice broke the silence. "For years, I have watched, listened, and recorded. I have been invisible, underestimated, dismissed, but no longer. These words, these truths, cannot remain hidden. The time has come for them to be seen, to be understood. History will remember tonight, not just for the events of the day, but for the revelations contained within these pages." Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the shutters and rustling the leaves of the magnolia trees. The storm that had been brewing for days now seemed to mirror the tension within the mansion. The secrets Mary had preserved would soon be unleashed, and the consequences would ripple across every life in the household. Mr. Hawthorne looked up from the notebook, his face pale. "You understand what you are proposing?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "These are not just words. They are accusations, confessions, revelations that could ruin reputations, destroy families, and unravel the delicate balance of this plantation." Mary nodded. "I understand. But the truth cannot remain hidden forever. People have lived under illusions, believing they were safe, believing that their secrets were secure. Tonight, that changes. Tonight, the world will see what I have seen, and history will change because of it." She began to read aloud, her voice steady, clear, and resonant in the quiet study. The words spilled forth like a torrent, each sentence revealing a hidden corner of human ambition, deceit, and desire. Caroline's secret letters, the overseer's clandestine dealings, the whispered fears of servants, the concealed sins of visiting dignitaries, all were laid bare before the master of the house. The candle flickered as Mary's voice carried, illuminating the room with the gravity of revelation. As she read, Mr. Hawthorne's hands shook. He tried to interject, to explain, to argue, but the weight of the words was undeniable. Every secret, meticulously recorded, had a clarity that no verbal argument could obscure. The mansion, so long a place of appearances and pretense, seemed to shrink under the scrutiny of truth. Mary's words cut through the facades, exposing the raw humanity beneath, the fears, ambitions, and desires that had remained hidden for so long. By midnight, the reading concluded. Silence hung in the room, thick and suffocating. Mr. Hawthorne leaned back in his chair, exhausted and overwhelmed. "Mary," he began, but words failed him. He understood now that her power was absolute. She had transformed from a quiet observer to a force that could alter lives, shape destinies, and rewrite history. Mary closed a notebook, her face calm, serene, yet carrying the weight of what had just transpired. "The truth is no longer invisible," she said. "It exists now in words that cannot be ignored. History will remember this night, not for storms outside or the daily events of the plantation, but for the revelations contained within these pages. And it begins with what you now know." Outside, the first hints of dawn touched the horizon, casting a soft light across the mansion and the field beyond. The world continued in its quiet rhythm, unaware that a shift had occurred within the walls of the plantation. Mary had changed everything. The secrets that had been whispered, hidden, and suppressed for years were now immortalized, their power unleashed in ways no one could have anticipated. As the household stirred with the morning routines, Mary returned to her duties in the kitchen, her presence seemingly unchanged, quiet, and unassuming. Yet within her rested a knowledge that would forever shape the fate of those around her. The notebook remained hidden, its pages now a record of history itself, a testament to the courage, insight, and patience of one who had seen everything and chosen to act. And so, the night history change came to a close. Mary, the cook who had listened, observed, and recorded, had transformed the ordinary into the extraordinary. Secrets became power, knowledge became agency, and a quiet woman, long dismissed, became the architect of revelations that would ripple across lives and generations. The plantation, the family, and everyone who had lived within its walls would never be the same again. The candle burned low, a final flicker signaling the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Mary's hand, steady and deliberate, closed the notebook and placed it back beneath the floorboard. Outside, the sun rose, casting light on a world forever altered by the quiet, persistent work of a single, extraordinary woman.